Hello, my dear students. Good part of the day. Today I'm here. I am again with you to teach again English literature. So in today's session, we'll start our literature classes from the first theme. It is called as the Old English period. So Old English period, how in Britain, how in British Isles the literature started, and what's the history of the English literature. Today we're going to find the answers for these questions from this topic. So, Old English is a term used to refer to the language literature spoken and written in England during the rule of the Anglo-Saxons. We can say that Anglo-Saxons are considered as one of the tribes of Germanic, and they moved in British Isles in old period. So, Old English literature. Old English literature is the language and the literature of the Anglo-Saxon. And these tribes ruled England from 450 AD to 1060 till Norman the people came to this land. Well, Old English literature directly related to modern English literature. Many of the modern words came from Old English one. So Old English was firstly oral with runic inscriptions and used alphabets, writing on manuscripts. That's why we can say that one of the main features of Old English literature, it was the oral literature and oral English. So we can say that the content of English literature at the time, in Old English literature at the time, there was strong belief in faith, juxtaposition of the church and pagan world, and admiration of heroic warriors who prevail in a battle, like Beowulf. In later slides will discuss this work and express religious faith and give moral instructions through literature. And we can say that religion is one of the inseparable part of the English literature in all times. Speaking about style and genres, we can say that there were first oral traditions of literature like folklore, then years by years, centuries by centuries, there appeared poetry. And because at the time, even though they didn't have any written language, written literature, and it was for them, it was just easy for them to recite this rhymed poetry. And unique forms of forms, it just includes alliteration, repetition, and caesura. Well, we can say that they are, in this picture, they describe key literature, Beowulf, etc. book, and Venerable Bede. They are considered one of the how to say, important part of Old English literature, and they put a foundation to English literature. So students, what do you think? Why Old English literature is important? Why do we learn it even though it was not so developed? The first reason it shows us where English comes from and how it relates to other languages. And it also tells about the history, society, and geography of England. So the alphabet of the Old English style was in this way, but in later period it changed. So speaking about a bit historical background, the time period of about 511 AD in British history was characterized by foreign inventions, internal struggles. This resulted in mixing of the several races, tongues, and cultures. From this time, we can see several inventions to this land. For example, Rome in 41 AD, Anglo-Saxon in the 5th century, and Vikings in the 9th century. So in this picture illustrated the Roman invention, and in this map we can see the Roman Empire inventions throughout European countries. So it is the map when to British Isles land, Anglo-Saxon people, Germanic tribes came to this land. It is about the changing map of the Vikings. Thus, we can say that English words with Germanic, having come from the language of Angles, Jutes, and Saxons. However, Latin also had a strong influence on early English. Later Scandinavians and Vikings contribute many words to Old English. It means that each invention just influenced, affected the development of the language as well as literature. So Old English literature consists of firstly poetry, prose, charms, riddles, maxims, proverbs, various other wisdom sayings, and it's a mixture of pagan traditions taught about life, universe, nature, as well as Christian thoughts and moral values. And there is often no clear-cut delineation between religious and non-religious poetry, or sometimes even between poetry and prose. If it's as we mentioned above, one of the foundation stone of Old English language and the literature is considered Beowulf. So Beowulf, it is considered the shining star of Old English literature. And it's a long heroic poem, epic poem, and it's considered the supreme achievement of Anglo-Saxon poetry because of its length, as it consists of 3,182 lines and sustained high quality. So we can say that Beowulf is composed. It's not written, student. It was composed by unknown author. But he seems to have a good, just good grasp of Bible and other great epics such as Homer's and Odyssey. So we can say that this work glorifies a hero, the values of bravery and the generosity. And it's considered the oldest poem of English literature. Everything written since Beowulf stemmed from it in some way. The story Beowulf includes some common themes that we still see in English literature today. So we can say that some of the characters in the poem actually existed, but we can say that most of them, like Grendel, Beowulf, are considered as the fictional characters. And the only copy of manuscript was written sometimes around 11th century AD. And the epic caught the imagination of the writers such as Tolkien. So speaking about setting, time and place of Beowulf. Also, Beowulf was written in English. It's set in what ways what's now Sweden, where a tribe called Geats lived. The story may take place as early as 400 and 500 AD. The Scandinavian tale, which became the first English epic, it's considered, and also the story of Beowulf centers around the heroic exploits of Scandinavians. It found fame in the epic poem written in Old English by Anglo-Saxon bards. And it tells the tale of Beowulf, a great warrior from modern day of Scandinavia who travels to Denmark to help King Hrothgar to defend his magnificent hall of heroes. They describe the conflict in Beowulf. The conflicts between Christian values and Anglo-Saxon or pagan values. This tension is at the heart of the poem. Pagan history and myths are made to point a Christian moral. And Beowulf is poised between two value systems, and it's assumed that poet was Christian. Still, may of the characters embrace pagan heroic ideals. We can say that there are two values, as we said, Christian and pagan. We can say that for the second value system, there were strong nature presence, strength of hero, and a love of war and virtue of courage. And the biblical Old Testament supplies the idea about giants, monsters having descended from Cain's line, and the poem is sometimes a scene, a conflict between good and evil. From the Christian tradition, it incorporates morality, obedience to God, and avoidance of pride. So if we speak about principal characters of this poem, the first main character, protagonist of this poem is Beowulf, is a Geatish hero who fights the monster. In his youth, he personifies all the best values of heroic culture. In his old age, he proves a wise and effective ruler. So the next character is King Hrothgar, the king of Danes, a wise aged ruler. Hrothgar represents a different kind of leadership from that exhibited by the useful warrior Beowulf. He is a father figure to Beowulf and a model for the kind of king that Beowulf becomes. The next one, it's Grendel, one of the antagonists of the epic poem. A demon descended from Cain, and Grendel preys on Hrothgar's warriors in the king's mead hall, heroic. Grendel fits solidly within the essence of vengeance that governs the world of the poem. The next antagonist is Grendel's mother, an unnamed swamp hag. Grendel's mother seems to possess fewer human qualities than Grendel. Also, her terrorization of heroic is explained by her desire of vengeance, a human motivation. The next one is dragon, an ancient, powerful serpent. The dragon guards a hoard of treasure in a hidden mound. Beowulf's fight with dragon constitutes the third and the final part of the epic. If we speak about summary, the first part of the story takes place in Denmark, and the king Hrothgar is being pestered by a water monster, Grendel, who is killing his man, Beowulf, and he comes to his aid and kills Grendel. And later at the bottom of the lake, also Grendel's mother, who comes to avenge her son. The second part happens in southern Sweden about 50 years later. Beowulf himself is the king and has to fight a fire-breathing dragon. The poem concludes decades later with a phase of between aging king, and fearsome dragon, ending with the death of both. So, etc. book. Students will stop in this place, in this time, our session, etc. book, and another representative of Old English literature will be told in the next sessions of our online class about Venerable Bede. As you know, it is a big session, and we have divided it into two parts. So keep in touch with us and follow our videos, and you can watch in the next days the next part of our session. Thank you. Goodbye.